Welcome to Power Your E-commerce Business, the go-to series for busy entrepreneurs like you. Product research, sales, marketing, branding, shipping and logistics. We share knowledge and information every week from top experts serving the MENA region to help you power your e-commerce business. So let's get started, and please help me in welcoming our guest speaker straight from Toronto, Canada, Ganesh, who is the founder of AiHello. Hi, Ganesh.
Hi, Crystal. How are you doing?
I'm very good. How are you?
Yep, not too bad. Thanks for having me on the webinar. I'm excited to get started and have a bit of what is the basics of Amazon PPC.
Thank you so much. Well, we're going to also be talking about AiHello. And additionally, of course, we're going to be answering everybody's questions at the end of the session.
Yes, that is correct.
So let's get started.
Hi, Crystal.
Let's get started.
Yes.
And let's talk about PPC ads and what PPC ads actually are. Like a little bit of a background. This part one of the two-part series is going to be talking about all the basics of PPC ads.
Yes, that is correct. Right. So let's start with the right, what is PPC ads? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. StreamYard is new, so it keeps on switching videos, so it's kind of confusing me.
No worries. Don't touch anything. We're fully in control.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So the basics of Amazon PPC is that it's a bidding system. It's an auction system. Someone has to win and someone has to lose. And the amount that you have to bid depends on how much your competitors are. And one of the biggest misconception is just because you reduce the bid doesn't mean your cost will go down. Sometimes you have to increase your bid in order to outbid your competitors, in order to better your cost. So that's the first basic misconception of Amazon PPC. So coming back to the basics, the basics of Amazon is we have a couple of types of Amazon sponsored products. So we have Amazon sponsored products, we have sponsored brands, we have sponsored display. What I usually recommend to all the sellers is just start off with Amazon sponsored products. It's the easiest to create. You can have it running in a couple of minutes, and you get to dip your toes into the water to see how it is performing. And once inside Amazon sponsored products, there are two kinds. One is the automatic campaign, which is you don't choose the keyword, you just choose the product, and Amazon will choose the right keyword and display to the right user. Mm-hmm. Or Amazon, manual campaign where you choose the keywords and you choose specific bid for each keyword. So those are the two, kinds of Amazon sponsored campaigns that you can create. And
talking about those sponsored campaigns, Ganesh, obviously most people ask a very common question, which is, how much money should I be paying for these ads what should be the campaign budget?
The campaign budget depends on your business goal. That is nothing, no tool should be able to tell you reactively how much should be your campaign budget. It's like saying, how much should I buy a house for? And the first thing the banks ask you when you buy a house for is like, what is your sale? What is your income and how much can you spend?
Yes.
So it's exactly the same answer. So I say to users that are jumping into the PPC, bidding on ads is exactly the same process as auction on a house. I don't know if you have auctions in Dubai, but in Canada and Australia, the houses are on auction. And everything you have to know is how much are you willing to spend? How much are you willing to, to budget? And what is your capability? What is your net worth? So the rest, everything will fall into place once you know about this.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, the basics of Amazon products. Go for it.
So we said manual campaign and auto campaign.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about manual campaign, because a lot of people ask, okay, so I started with an auto campaign and it's generating some keywords, when is the right time for me to jump on a manual campaign?
Our recommendation is that you start with both at the same time. You start with the automatic campaign and you start with the manual campaign at exactly the same time. And before you get started with the sponsored campaigns, what you need to do is you absolutely need to make sure that to a certain degree your listing is optimized. And the good news over here is that Amazon is releasing features very soon that will tell you if your listing is optimized or not right in the ads dashboard. And we're also going to release it in AiHello in a different way. So what you need to do is you need to have a bit of the basic optimized done for your listings. And once your listings are, satisfactory, not excellent, then you start with both the automatic campaign and the manual campaign. And what this forces you is at this time, when your listings are optimized, you already should know what are the best keywords for your product, because you're also adding those keywords into your backend search terms. So you can use the same keywords or you could use different keywords into your manual campaign. So you need to know what keywords.
Hold on a little bit.
Yeah.
Before we go further. Why is it very important for a listing to be optimized before you start your ads and before you go, full steam ahead with your ads?
Yeah. So there's a saying, you can bring a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. So we can show the ads to the customer, but we can't make them buy. So our objective is to display to the right customer at the right time, at the right location for the right money. But if the customer doesn't buy it because the images look really terrible, or the listing price is really too low or too high, or the images are not perfect, or the title is not good, then you're losing money on bidding. So there needs to be at least a satisfactory listing.
You're losing money, you're losing momentum, you're losing time, and most importantly, you're losing motivation.
Yes.
Because you feel like this whole Amazon thing isn't working.
Yeah.
So it's very that's why I made you go back to this point, because I think it's very important.
Yeah, that is correct. So if you come back to the basics, it's your listing needs to be satisfactory, and I'll come back to this in the advanced section of how you can scientifically measure if your listing is satisfactory, is performing well, and how you can improve it. But for now, know that just from a human perspective, if your listing looks good, if your listing looks something that people would buy, then you're ready to roll with the ads. And in the initial phase, what you need to do is you are in the testing phase. So you put your product out to the consumers and you check how many people are clicking and how many people are buying, and then you iterate on it. It's always an iterative model development in Amazon. You always have to keep on iterating your product, your title, your images, your ads, everything you keep on iterating until you hit profit.
Perfect. So it's not going to be perfect from the very first second that you launch. You want to try to be as close to perfection as possible, but then you want to see what the customers are, how they're reacting rather to the listing, and what you need to improve and what changes you need to make in order to get better and better.
Yeah.
Stagnation is not something that's possible in Amazon.
That is correct. And the reason why, a major reason why stagnation is not possible is that even if you reach peak point, your competitors are always improving. They're putting up new models, they're increasing the price, they're decreasing the price. So remember, you cannot have the same price when you bid for 10 houses. You always have to keep on increasing the bid or decreasing the bid, because you don't know who else is in the competition. It's almost like a blind auction. So you have to keep on improving, and you always have to race against yourself to make sure that you're always profitable. Even if you're at the peak, even if you're at number one, you always have to keep working to make sure you're at number one.
Exactly, because if you keep doing what you're doing, you're no longer going to be number one.
That is right. And people, if it's number one, then there's always a broader target, because more people are trying to bring you down.
Exactly. Okay, so we said auto campaign, manual campaign. We also wanted to talk about Asin, or product targeting campaign.
Yes, that is correct. So the second step, I actually have a PPT that talks about all of it, but I think in order to make it really simple and clear, I decided not to have the PPT. I have the PPT open in front of me. But what I would rather do is I would just talk about the really, really core basics of Amazon advertising. And, in the next step, in the next webinar, I'll present the
In part
PPT.
2, yes, next
Yes,
week.
and I'll talk about how you measure the listing, how you measure if your listing is optimized or not. Right.
Perfect.
So, the second part that we wanted to chat about was the Asin targeting. This would be the second step in your Amazon business. So what we do is the first step is you set up your auto campaign and manual campaign, and you let it run for a few days, and then you check what is the the statistics for it, what is the click-through rate, what is the conversion rate, if it's performing well, you measure out the ads. And the second step is you start putting up Asin targeting. Asin targeting is a really hard job because you have to know exactly what competitors you're targeting. It requires a bit of a research into it. And this is why we recommend that second, you can either go for sponsored display or sponsored brands, and then you go for Asin targeting as a final step.
Yeah. You do, just as a note, you do require to be a product that's a registered brand on Amazon if you want to do sponsored display.
Yes, or sponsored brands.
Yeah. Or sponsored brands, just to make it clear.
Yep.
Do you feel that Asin targeting or product targeting campaigns, the reason why you like them, because the reason why I like them is because they're not as expensive, or they don't consume as much out of your budget as much as the auto campaign, for example, or even the manual campaign?
It could be. From what we have seen, historically, the best performing has been a sponsored display video. It's catching up quick. But if we talk in terms of a new seller, if they're thinking of sponsored products and Asin targeting, historically the best performing has always been manual campaign with keywords, and then it has either been Asin targeting or auto campaign, one or the other. So always focus on the manual targeting. The reason is because it will get you the most sales for the maximum profit, and then it'll either be Asin targeting or it'll be auto campaign. So either one of it. For really rare situations, we have seen Asin targeting work really well. This depends on how well your research and your foundation is.
Perfect. Before we dive into the common mistakes that first-time sellers make when it comes to PPC ads, and what the common practices or the correct things basically for somebody to, the steps that somebody needs to follow when they are launching a product on Amazon when it comes to ads, of course. Let's talk a little bit about AiHello, your company. And you are an Amazon service provider. You're approved by Amazon. What does AiHello do, and what service does it provide sellers?
Right. So the first thing that we do is optimize the bid. When you create a campaign, an automatic campaign on Amazon or a manual campaign or an Asin targeting, what Amazon is going to ask you to put a bid on each of the keyword. And each of the, if it's auto targeting, there can be loose targeting, there can be close targeting, there can be substitute targeting. So what you do is you put a bid on all of it. And for the rest of the life of the campaign, Amazon is going to use that bid to compete, to auction against all of the sellers. This could be problematic because you always have new sellers, new competitors coming into the game, and they always outbidding you. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you're adjusting the bids daily, depending on how much sale you made, depending on what is your profit, depending on what is your ad cost, the advertising cost. You need to keep on adjusting the bids every single day. And what AiHello does.
So by adjusting the bids, Ganesh, you mean the bid of each and every keyword, not the general bid.
Yeah, right.
So one thing that a lot of people don't know, that you can adjust the bid for each and every keyword, even in an auto campaign.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is correct. So
and that's something that you need to do, because you need to make sure that you, especially for keywords that are not performing, that are getting, for example, a lot of clicks, but no sales, they're costing you a little bit. You don't want to negative them. You want to keep them a little bit, but you want to reduce the bid a little bit, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're making a lot of money. So this is something that you can do manually.
That is correct. So one correction I would like to make is in an automatic campaign, on Amazon automatic campaign, you can reduce the bid by collection of keywords. So you can say all
Yes.
similar matching keywords reduced,
Yes.
but you can't do it by one specific keyword.
Yes, of course.
And
Yes.
that's why you go to a manual campaign. So what you do, what the manual work you have to do is you set up an auto campaign, an automatic campaign on Amazon, and you find out what are the search queries that people are coming in. And then you take the best search queries and then you move it to the manual campaign. You have to keep on doing it every single day. You find the best keywords, you move it to the manual campaign, and you set the right bid. And even after it moves to the manual campaign, you have to keep on updating the bid up and down every single day.
Yes.
Right. So
basically, AiHello does this on an automated system instead of you doing it manually.
That is correct. So if you have one campaign, and maybe 10 keywords, what we recommend is you start off not using AiHello, you do it on your own. So you get an idea of what are the tasks involved in it. And then you can appreciate, what the the autopilot does, and if it is really helpful to you. So if you have 1 or 3 campaigns and 1 to 10 keywords in each of the campaign, we recommend you do it manually. Create an auto campaign, create a manual campaign, transfer the search term queries daily to the manual campaign.
So AiHello is not an Amazon auto campaign. It is an automated service, but it's not the same thing.
That is correct. And we keep hearing about this a couple of times.
Yeah.
Amazon automatic campaign finds automatically the right search terms to display to the customer, but it'll always use the same bid that you put in. And what we do is we adjust the bid up and down. So Amazon and we work in tandem. Amazon finds the right customers, we put the right bid for the right customer.
Okay. Okay. So Ganesh, let's talk about the common mistakes that you see, because you are an essential part of this community and you help a lot of people that reach out to you that either use AiHello or don't. You help them with their questions and queries related to Amazon PPC ads. So you know a lot of things related to PPC ads. Let me know what you find are the common mistakes that first-time sellers make on Amazon.
Right. The most common mistake that first-time sellers make is the listing is not optimized. And what we recommend is don't even
start. And they start their ads without checking. Yeah.
Yes. So without checking if the images are right, maybe if there are a good amount of images, maybe if the listing and the title is good, maybe if the images are professional. So those are the stuff that needs to be absolutely done before you get onto the Amazon PPC. And second mistake that they do is they only have automatic campaign, because that's the easiest to create. No, keyword research has to be done. They just put an automatic campaign. The purpose of an automatic campaign is to get keywords for you, is not to make profit for you. Right?
Yes. So it's data collection.
Data collection. And people don't realize it. They want to make, a huge profit. They're like, I want 5% of cost on my campaigns, but it's all automatic campaign. Automatic campaign is just for data collection. I think you can even switch off once you are, satisfied with the keywords, or you can really lower it down, the automatic campaign. And the biggest mistake that we've seen that really infuriates is people do something known as a keyword dumping. And we wrote a couple of blogs after that. And what I've seen is people put 500 or maybe 700 keywords on a manual campaign. And they expect, one of it will work. It's just what we call as spray and pray. So you just pray all your keywords and you pray, one of them works.
Yeah. So I was actually going to ask you this question because I get this question a lot. How many keywords do you think should be in a manual campaign?
The general recommendation is 30. We say 20. So anywhere between 20 and 30.
I say 10.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
20 is good for the long term. So 10 is good for starting out.
Yeah. So it shouldn't be 50 or 100 or 500.
I've seen 750.
Can you explain a little bit why it shouldn't be that much?
The reason is also because there is known as a budget starvation. So each campaign has a limited budget. You can put it, like 100 dirhams or 200 dirhams. And what you're doing is that budget is shared by all the keywords. So if you have 700 keyword, each keyword has only maybe 70 cents to share. but your best performing keyword are starving out, are being starved out by the worst performing keyword. So what you're doing is you're putting, like 1,000 people, and then you're giving them, like a tiny bit of food for all of them to eat. And of course, even the best people are going to, to starve out. So what we say is have a budget and then put just 10 keywords and star performing keywords and let those keywords do it.
So basically you can't treat all keywords the same.
Yes.
You have to be unfair.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else related to the common mistakes, or do we dive into the best practices?
Well, I think the one other common mistake rarely that I've seen is people create lots of ad groups and different kinds of ad groups within a campaign. So one is Asin targeting, one is manual targeting, and then a couple of different SKUs in one ad group. The problem is when there's a search term that comes up on your campaign, you don't know which product it went to. So there is a confusion of the search term. So you always make sure that one campaign, one ad group, one SKU.
Okay. One campaign, one ad group, one SKU.
Yes. Finish.
Okay. Best practices for somebody launching their product or in the beginning phase of their selling process on Amazon, because this is part 1 of our series, and part 2 we're going to be talking about advanced skills for sure.
That's right. So the best practice that we recommend is usually the opposite of the mistakes that we talked about. And what I recommend is create an auto campaign, create a manual campaign, put both of them on 80% at cost. If you're just launching out, put maybe 20 keywords on a manual campaign. But if someone wants to follow your advice, they can put 10. 10 is really the best.
They can test it out, but definitely not more than 20.
Yes. Yeah, definitely not more than 20. I mean, you can stretch it to 25, but that would be pushing it as well. And beyond that, then you can work on more of the campaigns.
Perfect.
Right.
So I know a lot of people have questions. Please, guys, go ahead and type in the chat what questions you have. I have the first question for you ready, Ganesh, because I get this question all the time. A lot of people do exactly what you said, auto campaign, manual campaign, and once they remove the keyword that was performing very well in the auto campaign, they move it to the manual campaign, they no longer get any results. What do you think?
Can you rephrase that question, please? Because, sorry, I was looking at Mohammed's question about the variations.
No worries. I get this question all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you the question exactly like I receive it.
Yeah.
A lot of people start exactly like you just said. They create an auto campaign and a manual campaign, and they wait and they find a keyword that is performing incredibly well in the auto campaign. When they remove it and add it to a manual campaign, it no longer performs. They're no longer getting any sales.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a reason?
The bid might be too low. So once the transfer from auto campaign to manual campaign, the bid would probably be too low. If the bid is sufficient, there's no reason it won't perform. And it also depends on the kind of bid that you put. So on an auto campaign, everything is performed as a broad search. And when you put it in a manual campaign, if you put it as exact, that customer search term might not hit the keyword that you put in on a manual campaign. So this is a bit of an advanced technique that we need to talk about because it not only depends on the keyword type, whether if it's a broad match or a phrase match or an exact match, it also depends on what is the bid that you put.
Okay, perfect. Would you recommend, Ganesh, basically, would you recommend someone to negative that keyword from an auto campaign and then add it to the manual, or not necessarily?
That would be a very good idea to do it. We automate that part. So when you move the search term over, and when you move it as a broad or a phrase or an exact, it's a good idea to to negate it on the auto campaign. So in a way, they are not competing. Usually they don't compete, but when you're an automated solution like Autopilot, then we treat you make sure that those keywords are not competing against each other.
Perfect. Let's go to Muhammad's question. If we have variations, this is a question a lot of people ask. If we have variations, should we create a campaign only for one variation or more than one variation?
So here the Amazon standard is you only create it for one variation, for one parent variation, and you put that in the campaign. What we recommend is the highly recommend is just put one variation. In some cases, what we can do is you can put different variations in different campaign. That would be the second priority. The third priority would be to put all the variations in one campaign. But the problem here is it depends on your product. If you have, for example, blue jeans and black jeans, and if people search for stone wash blue jeans, and they come up to your ad which shows black jeans, then people won't buy it.
Yes.
So you need to make sure that
because the color is an intrinsic part of the choice.
Yes.
Like, for example, selling a baby product, having it in pink or in blue. If I'm buying something for a boy and I find your product is pink,
yes,
I'm not going to buy it. So if it's an intrinsic part of the product, you might as well do for more than one, do an ad for all of the variations.
Yes, that is correct. That is absolutely right. And that's actually what we recommend. You put up a different campaign for some of your major variations that are bestsellers. People can always click on a variation and then see other variations if they want. So you create a campaign for jeans, like our blue jeans, and then people can click and see the color and buy, something else.
Perfect. Let's see Beatrice's question. Can you explain when keywords will compete with each other?
Technically, when you think of just Amazon, a pure Amazon solution without any automation involved in it, then two keywords, will not compete against each other. Amazon will just choose the top CPC keyword, the top bidding keyword, and then it will win the auction. So the problem arises when you use automation, and especially when you use automation, 2 or 3 automation on the same campaign. Then what happens is one keyword wins the auction, and the software solution looks at the second keyword and thinks this did not win the auction, so I must raise the bid for it. It will raise the bid for the second keyword, and you're always competing against each other. So the problem when keywords will compete with each other is only when you're using an external third-party solution for automation.
Very good answer.
Yeah.
Anybody else with any questions, please let us know. What else are we going to be talking about, Ganesh? In part 2 of the masterclass, we're going to be talking about very important metrics that you need to focus on once you launch your ads and once you want to expand on those ads and expand on your business. Because just simply launching the ads isn't enough, of course.
Yep. So I know this sounds silly, it's the reason why I didn't create the PPT is because I want people to be absolutely aware that you need to have the basics and the foundation really, in a solid ground before you start the ads and before you do anything with the PPC. Make sure your listings are optimized. Make sure you create an order campaign. Make sure you create a manual campaign, and make sure you're always working to create it. This cannot be a part-time job. Amazon cannot be a part-time job. If you do a part-time job, you will earn part-time money.
Oh, that's that's perfect what you just said.
Yeah.
So a lot of people do start and say, I'm going to test and see what happens and see if the business is worth it. I'm going to create a listing. I'm not going to give it 100%. I'm not going to spend a lot of money on creating images, and let's see what happens. And what ends up happening is, well, you don't get 100% results.
Yeah, that is right. Yeah.
Yes. Let's see some other questions before we're done. So again, from Muhammad, what would be the optimum ACoS to reach?
Yeah. It's again, it shows that you haven't done the business into it. You haven't reached into the business into it. Optimum ACoS 90%, maybe 10%, maybe it could be 100% too. We have one
Depends
seller
on the product and on you.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have one seller that wants 300% ACoS. And we have some sellers that want 5% ACoS. So there is no answer to this. And if you ask this question, that means you don't know what you're selling, how much you're selling for. And let me give you an example, right? So you sell a product for $100 and Amazon takes the selling cost of maybe $30 out of it. So you're left with $70. And how much are you buying it for? We don't know how much you're buying it for. Are you buying it for $1? Are you buying it for $70? So depending on how much you're buying it for, you need to find out what is the optimum egg cost. The egg cost is always what is left over after Amazon takes the cost and your product cost, the product landed cost.
Yeah. You need to know those numbers in order to figure, if I'm selling the product and my A cost is 50%, am I losing money or am I making money? Optimally, the A cost should be zero, but that's not always possible. So it's very much dependent on the product that you are selling and the category and all of that. So Beatrice is saying, if we have items within the same line or product category, that's a very good question. Do you still recommend one campaign, one ad group, and one SKU per campaign?
Yes. We usually always, our strongest recommendation is one campaign, one ad group, and one SKU per campaign. And remember, if there are variations and a user lands on that ad, they can always click into it and they can watch the other variations from within the product detail page. So the Amazon recommendation is also the same: one campaign, one ad group, and one parent variation.
Perfect. Do we need to change the placement at the beginning to make sure we're on the first page?
You can't change the placement to make sure you are on the, you mean the placement percentage probably?
Exactly.
Okay. It's a good question. And I completely missed, in the basics and in the basics pitfall. Placement is something that I wanted to talk about. We don't need to change the placement. Keep it at 0% and change the bids. So going back to, to the basics, to the best practices and what are the common pitfalls that I've seen. I've seen some sellers keep their placement percentage at 900%, the maximum that Amazon can do. And this makes it very hard to know, what exactly should be the bid to sell. It's a good idea to keep it 20% to 30% to 50%, but 900% would be really, really crazy high. And to answer, Mohammed's question, you might need to not change the placement, but it depends on your goal. Do you want to be aggressive? Do you have the budget to be aggressive? If you have the budget to be aggressive, then definitely change the placement. If you want to just test it out, then leave the placement and just change the bids up and down every day.
And to add on what you just said, Ganesh, it also depends on your listing, Muhammad. So do you have reviews? Are you optimized? Like, I wouldn't suggest that you do that if you don't have reviews, because listings without reviews don't convert very well. So if you're additionally paying additional money just to be on the top of the first page, make sure that your product is going to convert.
Yeah, that is correct.
So Alex is saying, when we create manual campaign with, this is like one of the things that I was asking you. When we create manual campaign with budget of 200 dirhams and add 10 keywords with high bid, around 6 dirhams, only 2 to 3 of the keywords perform. Other keywords have 0 impressions. What do you think? And it's using up 30 to 40 dirhams from the 200.
Yep. So what we do is...
So basically, the second part of the question is how to force the other keywords to work.
Yeah, it's very simple. Raise the bid.
More than 6 dirhams.
It can go up to... a strange thing I found out, that UAE has the highest Amazon CPC in the world. It was very strange. For such a small market, it has the highest CPC, probably because there are lots of sellers and few buyers. So there are probably more sellers.
Oh, don't say that.
No?
Oh, don't say that.
Okay. It's probably
no, it's because it's a lot of first-time sellers. And when you start on Amazon, you're very eager, so you go ahead and you bid very high because you want your product to succeed.
Yes, probably. Yeah, that's the reason. I didn't look too much into it, but I did notice, and even Amazon put out the information, and lots of organizations put out the information that UAE has one of the highest CPC in the world. It's even higher than USD. So unfortunately, the right way to make the keyword work, in usual most of the cases, is to raise the bid. Sometimes, exceptionally, some of the keywords could be suspended by Amazon. Amazon doesn't give out that information. But if it's a kind of a suspend or a ban keyword, Amazon would not give any impressions for that keywords.
Okay, but the keywords are coming from his auto campaign. Let's assume.
Yes. Are those customer search terms?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's say they are.
Yeah, even if it's Amazon, customer search term, sometimes they could be, if it's potentially sensitive, then Amazon could restrict to those kind of keywords. For example, face mask, people search for face mask, but for a lot of the keywords, those face masks, are keywords that are prohibited from being added as a keyword.
You're right. Okay, so in the auto campaign.
So sorry, Crystal, you're breaking up. Can you hear me?
Ganesh?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so what I was saying, in this case, would you recommend that he keeps the keywords, or if he had negative them in the auto campaign, just remove them from the negative targeting and keep them in the auto campaign if they were performing well?
I think it's a good idea to move ahead and negate it in the auto campaign and keep it as a keyword on the manual campaign. It's a good strategy going forward, but there's no reason why if it is performing in the auto campaign, the search term, it won't perform in the manual campaign. It's just a matter of putting up the right bid and making sure that the placement percentage matches. So make sure the placement percentage on auto campaign is the same as placement percentage on the manual campaign as well.
Okay, perfect. So at the end of this masterclass, some of the takeaways are: if you are launching your product, make sure that the listing is optimized as much as possible before you start advertising. You need to advertise if you want to sell successfully on Amazon. Ganesh, what else? We said create an auto campaign and a manual campaign at the same time. Remove keywords on a daily basis from the auto to the manual.
You could do it daily. Daily is the recommended, but if you're hard pressed for time, do it weekly.
Do it weekly.
Yep.
If you don't have any time.
Yes.
What else?
So this process is known as keyword peeling.
Right. Yeah.
And what you do is you peel all the search terms from your automatic campaign, and then you move it onto the manual campaign. Make sure your manual campaign doesn't exceed more than 20 keywords. If you think some campaigns are some keywords are not performing well, you pause it, you archive it, and then you make sure you have only 20 high performing keywords active in your manual campaign.
Perfect. Last question, Ganesh. Is there any way we can prevent other sellers to put ads under our Asin?
This is known as the right way to do it is you create a campaign and you target your own Asin and you set a very high bid for it. It's the only way to do it. Unfortunately, Amazon is really going high on ads, and we have to play the game. There's no other way.
Yeah. And, Amazon want to show variations to customers so that they have more options and they can choose from a lot of sellers. One thing Thank you for that question, by the way. But one thing, would you recommend anyone and everyone to create a product targeting campaign and target their own listings, ASINs?
Usually for beginners, no, never. Don't do that. No. There are some multi-million-dollar companies. There are some clients that we have that have a budget of maybe $1 million a month, and they set aside 5,000 to 10,000 for their own keywords, for their own branded keywords, for their own targeting Asin. And even then, they don't occupy all the time. They just put it at a certain limit, and they don't change it up and down. They put it at a certain limit, maybe $3 per keyword, and $3 for their own Asin, and they leave it at that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ganesh. Thank you, everyone, for being part of this live masterclass. And we'll see you in part 2. Anything, any last words? Any advice, Ganesh?
Okay, sorry, from me. I thought you were asking for last words from the audience.
No
last
worries.
words I can say is don't be afraid of the Amazon PPC. But be very cognizant of the fact that you could lose a lot of money on ads. Ads is something that you could, drain your whole budget in a day. So start with a very low bid, extremely low bid, and then try to increase the bid every single day. If you put up a very high bid, then you lose all the money and get disheartened. So it's absolutely imperative that you start with a very low bid, very conservative, and start with a placement percentage of 0%. And then as you start making sales, or if you're not making any sales, increase the bid gradually.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ganesh. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'll see you in part 2 of this live masterclass series with Ganesh and AiHello. Bye.
Okay. Thank you, Krishnan.